Welcome to Beyond the Box. Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box.
Break it down.
Our guests are insiders, now on the outside and the right side, dropping truth and nuclear intel bombs and breaking it down just for you. And now it's time to meet your hosts and co-hosts. Your hosts of Beyond the Box are Brenda Lankart and Suzanne Hott. Brenda Lankart is host of Beyond the Box and retired law enforcement. Joined by Suzanne Hott, host of Beyond the Box, Joel's Indoor Arena and Event Center, and White Horse Productions. They are joined by Tom Althouse, Brian Tseng, and Penny L.A. Shepard. Brian Tseng, co-host Beyond the Box, is Full Disclosure Now Movement, fulldisclosuremovement.org. Tom Althouse, co-host Beyond the Box, is the real author of The Matrix, The Immortals, and The Matrix Redeemed. And Penny L.A. Shepard, executive producer and co-host of David Zublick's Awake Nation, The Dark Outpost, Patriot's Perspective, and Beyond the Box. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Break it down.
Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box. Beyond the Box begins now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today is March 29th, 2024. I don't know how I got you and Susie mixed up back here in the queue there.
That's all right. We look so much alike.
But so tonight we are going to be doing a show with Brian. He's going to come on here and we're going to talk about his Disclosure Now movement. Him and Mario will be here tonight too. And we're going to find out what it's all about. What are they disclosing? And I would like to know how everybody came together. So I'm going to go ahead and bring everybody out. Let's bring Susie out here. Susie, I didn't mean to hide you. And then we will, bring out Brian. Hi, Brian.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Greetings, ladies.
Hello, Mario. So, what we're going to do, Susie, thank you. What we're going to do is Brian and Mario, between the two of you, I would like to talk about your Disclosure Now movement, how it started, exactly what you're going to talk about, the people that you have there that are going to be there with you, and what brought everybody together. So if you would, please take it. Let's hear about it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brenda. And let me share my screen here. I'll pull up the website for our upcoming conference, the 2024 Full Disclosure Now conference, which is going to be this July 15th to 18th in Florida at St. Pete Beach at the Serrata Beach Resort. This is a really beautiful venue. But what I'm even more proud about is our speaker lineup. The reason why we call it the Full Disclosure Now movement is that, I think when we say disclosure, a lot of people think about UFOs, laser beams, ETs, 0 point energy. And I think that's great. And I'm all for it. I'm, absolutely. But another thing driving us is the full part of Full Disclosure Now. And the full part is the stuff that is very often left out. It's buried. It's not glamorous. It's not sexy. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It's horrifying. It's SRA, ritual abuse of younger people a lot of the time. And it's done by the groups in the government, or the government that's supposed to protect us. There are rogue groups that are taking our tax dollars and they're running what are called, black budget programs or SAPs, special access programs, to this very day. And they're doing everything from farming humans, extracting adreno space CHOROME. Pardon me, I don't want to say it live, depending on what platform we're on, and all that stuff. And so what we've got here is we've assembled for our presenters for the conference, people like Penny Bradley, and Tony Rodriguez, and Daryl James, and Laura Eisenhower, and Misha Johnson, and Arkeem, and many others who are experiencers and survivors of these programs, including the Montauk Project and secret space programs like Nachtwaffen or Dark Fleet or Solar Warden or Radiant Guardian, just to throw some of the names around. And then to combine with them, we've got people who, some of them had more positive ET experiences, like I believe Nancy Thames and Barry Littleton, okay? And Nancy herself was in the Department of Defense, and so had kind of access to some of this information back in the day, and was trying to, and has been ever since, reporting on it and getting this information out there, okay? And that's where you get people like Miles Johnston and Carrie Cassidy, right? And then we've got this newer phenomenon that I'm very excited about, remote viewers like Yamei Janae and Jessica Jones. So civilians out here now have tools that the CIA and the Soviets and whoever they were using back in the 60s and 70s. And now people are pioneering the use of these techniques for civilian purposes, whether it's uncovering hidden, ugly truths or, finding out some more beautiful secrets of the universe. And, with that, we've got people like Mario here, where, he may be on the experiencer side as well. And a lot of people who are on the experiencer side, it's because they have special abilities and gifts, lineages, genetics, whatever, a vibrational frequency that the other side, they always want to take and use and exploit, right? Kill, steal, and destroy. And, not are we finding people who, I don't know, I mean, I remember growing up, it seemed like just finding someone who was like psychic was really hard to do. Someone who had healing abilities by laying on hands, or someone who could have prophetic dreams. Now it's like, okay, people are, yeah, I'm an experiencer and I have prophetic dreams and I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I can heal you at a distance because I have, Reiki abilities,
Right.
and yeah.
I think that a lot was because I know when I was growing up, I was always told, don't ever talk about what you see. Don't tell people that, they're going to put you in a crazy house.
Right.
So I think back then you couldn't say the things that you were capable of. So it is a lot better now. I mean, people can be open about it.
Well, a lot of the taboo not only has gone away, the giggle factor, I think it's starting to turn a lot with a lot of the worldwide medical shenanigans. The whole conspiracy theorist label doesn't seem to stick quite as much. It's easy these days to come back and say, wow, you sound thrice times jabbed, as an insult. And that seems to stick better. And, I've been kind of promulgating with others online over social media these days, the idea that, we were never the black sheep. We were always the golden lions. And they always wanted to tar us as the black sheep. But we were, that was never the case.
That's an excellent way to put that.
It is.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, let's hear from Mario. What do you think about that, all of this, and being part of the show?
Yeah, that's amazing. I love everything that you just, the way you broke it down. And I'm really honored and grateful and excited and surprised and nervous to be a part of this show, because up until this point, this sort of part aspect of my life has been completely private to maybe a handful of people, in terms of being involved in some of these shadow government programs. And so I'm really looking forward to being able to take this next step forward in my journey, in being more public and sharing, and also in hopes that that opens more pathways for me to get more memory and connections as to what actually happened. So for me, what's, my particular story is just some guy who's just gone through a lot of shit that's just supernatural, and doesn't make sense, from getting hit by cars 3 times in 1 year, to having a stroke, to having 2 brain tumors, to prophetic dreams, and numerous of different things. Ex-military girlfriends that were trying to kill me, and I didn't know that they were ex-military, and stealing all of my literature and my life's work, and a bunch of different things. And for all of the things that I've gone through my entire life, they were all in my mind compartmentalized. I would go through an intense experience and then forget about it, and then live on, and like, okay, let's try, a different path in my life and make something new happen. But then some shit would happen again. And it wasn't until the years where I started going through my health crisis, where it was the first time in my life where I had to be still in one place. Because up until then, I didn't realize that my inability to be still was because there was a part of me that was avoiding looking inside of something deeper that was wrong. So once I was, dealing with the stroke and the brain tumors and the chronic pain, it was the first time in my life where I was, beat down and had to be put in one place. And with me being in one place, I got to explore the internet a whole lot more, because before then it was a really hippie guy with long hair, really buff, smoking weed in the mountains every single day. Didn't spend much time on the internet. So I'm watching YouTube videos, and I come across Corey Good and David Wilcock. And this was, back in 2018, 2017. And at first I'm watching all of this content just because I felt some kind of connection, and it was fascinating. And it was sort of giving me more verification on some of the more spiritual things that I was experiencing, whether through dreams or synchronicities. And then it wasn't until about the end of 2019, after Dimensions of Disclosure, where I started to, that event in 2019 was like a huge nodal nexus point, where so much of our soul family that communicates actively today all met for the first time there, And so from that point, I started creating friendships with people and sharing some of the things that I went through, such as like my art and all of that stuff. And it wasn't until meeting and talking with those folks where they were able to help me expand my perspective and connect dots of what I went through, and really opened me up to see that whoa, my feeling of a hidden hand is actually more truer than I want to believe, and just like a lot of the other folks that shared their stories, I was in the talented and gifted program as a child in TAG. I remember back in like 4th, 3rd grade, these people came to our school and they tested everybody and frequencies that they can hear in their ears and all that sort of stuff. And after that moment, I was suddenly in the talented and gifted program, and weird memories of being abducted as a child, but never spoke about it because it was incomplete of a memory. So my whole life, anytime that surfaced, it was like, I think I'm making that up. I think that that's not real. So my whole life that would come up, and I'm like, I don't know why that's coming up because it doesn't go further than this certain point. So maybe I'm just imagining it. And so once coming across communities like this, where there are multiple people that have gone through the same exact thing, I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So, you know, what I'm bringing to the event is sort of that point for folks that really don't know much and know that they have been going through a lot of things in their life and are sort of going through that first initiation in completely shattering their whole world paradigm. Because once you awaken and realize what all has been happening, it just shatters your entire world paradigm and how you experience reality. And it's challenging. It's like a walk of fire. You begin to walk down fire where you are sort of like, the way I want to say it is like tearing yourself, because now you're having to do this work where you're literally tearing yourself even more, going into the past to reveal things that you may have long forgotten or don't think about. And if people in this community, if we pay attention to the work of like Joe Dispenza, Eckhart Tolle, you know, all these other spiritual gurus, and also ancient texts and stuff, part of healing and ascending is the present of now, the moment of now. And so I think something that's not really spoken of that much when we are going into this work, how much we are taking ourselves away from the now in order to go into the past and uncover and reveal, which leaves us very vulnerable to a lot of susceptibilities, whether through emotional pain, actual physical illnesses. There are a lot of people in our community where we share the same kind of digestive issues, physical issues, thyroid issues, kidney issues, that sort of stuff. And so the more we are remembering, like, holy shit, when I was 5, or my first marriage, or all of this stuff, and we're having to like relive our entire lives back into this moment with an expanded awareness of what's actually been going on, we're fracturing ourselves even more. And that was my experience first coming into this domain. And I was very obsessed about it before. And then I got to this point where it was destroying my life. It was destroying the quality of my life. So I needed to take a step back and remember who I am before ever discovering this, what my soul essence is, and try to find a way to bridge the things that have happened, but still maintain the integrity and purity of who I am on a soul essence. And you know, because if they're abducting us because we're special and badass, then like I want to focus on that specialness, you know, more so than the bad things that I went through, which are a lot of bad things. You know, I do know I was part of SRA, conjuring, and that sort of stuff, with just vague memories where most of the memory is from an emotion, which we know that emotions carry a whole lot more information than a thought. And with that, I'll just pause for there.
You know, Mario, you bring up some really great points in terms of alchemizing the stuff that's happened in the past to people who've been through these programs and bringing that to the present. And that's a big part of it. And so I don't want to downplay that as being part. That's also part of the full disclosure now movement. One of the things we do like to delineate is we're a little bit different from the 100% love and light people, where they don't want to talk about these dark SRA type topics, and we're like, no, we have to go there. We think it's a disservice to try to push that to the side and keep it all bright. And that's another thing that we want to distinguish here. And you know, as part of that, we're having I'll share my screen again here, a healers, psychics, and readers gallery as a component. So some of the people who are speaking on our primary and second stage, or even if they're not speaking, we have a few who are going to be in the gallery, because a lot of folks, and Mario touched on this, have difficulties remembering what happened to them, because, you know, a lot of people were given screen memories, their memories were wiped, all sorts of stuff. And so part of the point of having a gallery like this of people who are intuitives and psychics and readers and healers is to help people not only regain their memories, but then, get the healing that they need. And then I'm going to kind of propose it while we're all there. I think it would be kind of interesting to take what we call a hard case, and let's see if we could get like a bunch of these folks to all focus on that one hard case and tackle it at the same time. And let's try these more synergistic approaches that we didn't necessarily have available to us before the internet, before we could all come out and gather together without whack-a-mole happening, if you will.
Sounds like a really good idea and a pretty good challenge.
That sounds exciting. And I just want to clarify too that I'm with you on that whole, it's not all love and light thing. Like if you read a lot of my posts at the very end, my slogan is love and light, death and darkness, full spectrum, because it can't just be all love and light. There's also death and darkness. That's another fact of the universe. So I'm 100% with you on that there.
Anyone have any questions? Yeah, Brenda, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, does anybody have any questions? Tom?
I have a thought. I just let my heart speak. I was always called Unfiltered, Lucky Strike when I was on tours because I just spoke my mind, couldn't filter it. So here we go. I appreciate that you didn't choose this path, that it basically chose you, that you have that humble spirit about you. And that means a lot to me. I love people like that, that they're doing the work because it's been put on their plate, not because they sought it out. And I think that's a very important thing. And I think it's a really good point, what you guys said about the love and light group too, not wanting to have that negative going on, where actually these things need to be talked about. And it makes me think of the plethora of people out there who have been given amazing stories that are in the shadows, and they're not known, they're not seen. And I think we always have to be mindful to keep those doors open for them to come through the door or the window and be found, because they're a piece of the puzzle for better humanity. And I think that's something we should all be aware of. Each time we celebrate lifting each other, let's keep our eyes out for those that have not been seen yet.
Well, yeah. And that whole, the love and light thing is awesome, but you cannot, I feel, because I'm there and I've gone through this stuff. There are days I sit and just twirl my hair and try to pull it out. You cannot really have true light and true love and embrace until you get that darkness out of you. I mean, it's got to come out. I've never really had anybody that I could talk to about the things that I've gone through. And it's been a struggle. I just turned 56 years old and I have struggled since I was 5. So, but I move on. I've got God. There I go. So this sounds really interesting. And what I would like to know, Brian, when you first started all of this, how did you get a hold of these people? I mean, how did you guys connect?
So last summer, I co-organized with some other people the Montauk Adventure Tour. Last summer was coincide with the 80th anniversary of the Philadelphia experiment, and which is linked to the Montauk Project in Camp Hero out there on Long Island, New York, and so that's why we're out there. And off of that, I kind of entered into the community in a big way, if you will. And so I was in some discussions with people about throwing a bigger event this year. And there was some shakeup in the leadership, some disagreements in the original organizing team. And the one guy decided to kind of take his football and walk away and say he's going to throw his own, thing next year. And great. And we decided, there's no way we could assemble such an amazing cast and crew and then just let it spectacularly plane crash or, container ship crash into a bridge, if you will, because there were hard feelings with anybody. And so it was kind of like between a bunch of us, we had enough contacts to pull together many of the headliners that you see. And, you know, I'm so gratified by that. I told the team in the beginning, if we could get, you know, two or three or four, you know, of this like top 10 list, like we're in business. And very quickly we had, you know, 10, 15 headliner level people. So that wasn't the issue. And it's like, if you've got the right people, then everyone else will come. That was really the philosophy. And then the other part is, you know, I want to give a shout out to Tyler Koala and Aaron Kuhn of Journey to Truth. They're doing what I consider a sister event, Rebels of Disclosure in Grafton, Illinois in April. And I'm going to be there. And many of the people attending this conference are going to be at their conference as well, and vice versa. And because they're putting out people who they're not giving out a confusing message of like flat earth, you know, or, you know, you got some people are flat earth and some people disagree over here, and they're all, you know, our people are all consistent. We're putting out a very consistent message. We're not trying to be confusing. And then we want to provide the best bang for the buck. In this economy, it is terrible right now. Okay, so we want to make sure that people get great value in terms of the presenters, the attendees, the vendors, and then we want to bring nice business to the area, you know, and be good neighbors, if you will. And I think that this is kind of a new way of doing things, because we're about the movement. We're not about squeezing the dollar, and we're about taking care of the presenters, recognizing that many of them are military veterans who are unrecognized. They're the opposite of stolen valor. Their valor was stolen from them. So that's some of the I don't know, what do you call it? The ethos behind how we're doing things, because a lot of this is we're not just assembling these testifiers together to, you know, speak to our conference, which is great. We literally want them on the world stage so that we can demand in a concerted, coherent voice demands for justice, healing, and reconciliation. And the justice, number one, we see is coming through worldwide televised tribunals for justice. Okay. We want everyone up there on trial. We want to sort out who's who in the zoo, who did what, and go from there. The healing part is going to come from releasing a lot of these technologies, like medical beds and clean energy, and doing things like building healing centers, starting with First Nations land and tribe, like native reservations here in the United States and up in Canada, because you got to start at the bottom and work your way up. And these centers are going to focus on like the most sick and the military veterans, you know, after the First Nations peoples and all that. And the reconciliation is going to come when, you know, all the people, the wrongdoers have been rounded up, and all the people who need healing have been healed, and our society is reformulated into what the new Earth, the Star Trek future that we should have had yesterday. And that's why it's full disclosure now.
Does anybody else have any questions for Brian and Mario?
Susie does.
Go ahead, Susie.
Susie, you might be muted on your phone still, because we can. Yep. Nope, still muted. Uh-oh. You might need to leave and come back.
Not again.
No, technical difficulties.
Again.
I think, Susie, go ahead and go out and come back in, and then just let me go ahead and mute you, because I think every time you mute it, it gets stuck. All right. Hang tight, everybody. So, Penny, did you have anything that you wanted to ask?
No, I just wanted to make a comment that Mario had sent me a video. Tom Mario also he liked our concept of the dream team, and he does some dream decoding, not dream, but like movie decoding as well. He played, by the way, Mario, just in case no one told you, we did get banned in a couple other countries because of the video.
We
uh,
did.
Oh,
We did.
yeah,
You should have
so-
seen me. You'd have
so
been proud.
before-
I was arguing with YouTube, like, no, I don't think so.
Right. So before we play
Oh.
any videos, and if we do play that video that you gave us tonight, I'm going to go ahead and read this copyright disclaimer.
Okay.
Under Title 17 USC Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. That's just the thing that we have to do in order to maintain that any copywritten information that we may bring forth is actually used for educational purposes. That doesn't mean that you can't still get stricken, but it does give you a little bit of a layer of protection.
They don't like arguing with me. They actually got a manager to answer my messages. But anyways, take
Wow.
that, YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. And
I'm a little more
if we
educated
decide
than
that
what
we're
they
going to play that. I will
Yeah.
I will bring it on the screen.
Well,
So I
yeah,
have
okay.
that video. But what I wanted to say to Tom is that Mario does these decodes, which are freaking fabulous. The one that we did last week shocked me. Do you want to tell them a little bit about it, Mario? The one from last week?
Oh,
Yeah.
hang on 1 second, guys. I know that Susie had a question, so let me unmute her so she doesn't
Okay.
forget her question. All right, Susie, let me get you unmuted and then go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I think what Brian is what you're doing is phenomenal, and how you're bringing all these people together. It's so much like what Penny does with, you know, how she brings all these people together and all these, and you know, it's what the world needs. And all these people, I think when everybody comes together and this whole entire entourage it's like connecting the dots of people's life, and people are going to find answers to things through other people's, you know, stories and stuff like that. And I think it's really important, and it reminds me of your script, Tom. You know, a lot of what you wrote in the Matrix, and you know, I mean, the storyline, it kind of fits with what Brian was saying. So I know my dogs are going crazy out here, so go ahead and mute me. And Mario, I love your story. It's phenomenal. So go ahead and go.
I love it. I love the chaos. So
I'm gonna have to mute too because I'm living on the same ranch.
no problem. No problem. So the video that I shared last week, Tom and Brian, I don't know if you've seen it too. It was a video I made a few years ago, I think in 2021, where how I came about to make this video was I went into a Bufo ceremony, and if you don't know what Bufo is, it's a sacred toad medicine. It's the world's most powerful DMT experience. And so I was in a 2-day ceremony, and where we did a Bufo experience on both those days. And, you know, the shaman saying, set your intention. And, you know, we spent like a whole week on a diet and meditating and doing all kinds of hippie yoga stuff before the Bufo event. And my one intention to my guides, to my higher self, was, okay, is this real? Like, is my feeling being involved to all of this stuff real? Or is there just like a really sad inner traumatic child in me that's like, you know, living into this fantasy? Like, and I'm like, guides, medicine, please tell me, because if it's this other reason, I'm just like messed up and traumatized, like I'll drop this space program shit like in a hot, like right away, you know? So I went boom, 2 days back to back, intense Bufo ceremonies. And at the end, I'm camping on this mountain, and I have a very intense DMT soul retrieval experience on this mountain in Nevada. And as I'm having this experience, a lot of memories and visualizations and just deeper knowingness starts to unfold. And so as the days went on, I had a clear message come into my mind from my higher self, or what I call sometimes my council of higher selves. And it was so clear. And the message was, go to YouTube and search the Space Jam golf scene. And so I'm like, oh, okay, that's very specific. All right, I'm going to YouTube, Space Jam golf scene. And it's like a 3-minute clip. And when I see that whole video, it told me everything that I needed to know to confirm that, okay, yes, this is real. Like my connection and my involvement to all this is real. And as I'm like speaking more about it, like the heat in my body is starting to leave. And this happens when I start getting into this vulnerable space of talking about this stuff. So if you see me shiver, that's why. So I watched this video, and it just opened up more and made it connect. And in the video, you see Michael Jordan at a golf course with 3 other guys, and he gets ringed down the hole, and he's being rung down the golf hole, or the rabbit hole, and he enters another dimension that's Looney Tune world. And as he's in Looney Tune world, all the cartoons are there. Bugs Bunny.
Sorry, Mario, but I've been in Looney Tune world too.
I believe it. We probably have all been there.
I think so.
But as he's there, as Michael Jordan is there, he's like tripping out. He's stimulus overload, other dimension, cartoons, and all that stuff. And Daffy Duck comes out dressed like a mad scientist, acting all crazy like he is. Puts him on this chair, the trip chair. Does all this crazy stuff. Inspects in his ear. And then when he inspects in his ear, like out of all the things that the producers of the movie could have put in his ear as a random object, they put a paperclip, which to me spoke Project Paperclip. And mad scientist, guy on chair sitting in another stimulated animated world being inspected and all that stuff. So then he goes through this inspection. Then Daffy Duck stamps him on the forehead, A-OK. So he passed. He's worthy to be, in this program. And then Bugs Bunny sits on his lap and starts telling him this crazy story. Michael Jordan's like, why am I here? Bugs Bunny, well, these aliens came from outer space, and they want to enslave us and have them entertain the people on their planet, blah, blah, blah. And so they were actually really tiny. So we challenged them to a game of basketball thinking we'd beat them. But then they left and they came back, and now they're huge. And basically what we're saying is we need your help to fight these aliens so we don't end up being slaves. And so that's that clip. And so in the video, I'm breaking all of that down and sharing some of my art that I channel. So I channel a lot of art, and going back to the people that I've met who helped me put things together. When they saw my art, they were like, "This art isn't what you think it is. This art, like there's another part of you that's trying to communicate." And like I drew me sitting in like an all white hyperbolic chamber on the trip chair, being bombarded with all these frequencies, staring into a screen with AI computer behind the screen. And so a lot of things like that. And so that's basically the essence of the video. And I'll pause for a second.
Yeah, it definitely, I looked at it and I was like, dang, the paperclip. Because if you look at it as an uninitiated individual, just like, oh, well, that's weird. Why is there a paperclip in his ear? But those of us who are researchers go, oh, dang, you're literally telling us about the mad scientists who were brought over into the United States, and not just 5,000 scientists, but anybody who is beholden to the Third Reich to create a perpetuation of it, which is now, I believe we're in the Fourth Reich now. And these individuals have been put into places of even the children have been put into places of high military strategize, CEOs of corporations, etc., to do this, to continue on the perpetuation of the paperclip agenda. There's an X-Files. There's a bunch of X-Files about the paperclip. And I do, Tom and I do movie decodes, and I started doing them on Stranger Things, of course, because that's the character is actually me. Still trying to figure out how the Duffer Brothers did it, but I don't believe that the Duffer Brothers even know that they wrote about a real person. That's just my assessment,
Mhm.
but it's very strange. You know, they were going to go to the University of Florida, and that I'm from Florida. And then they changed their mind and they ended up going to Chapman College, which is about 15 minutes from my former agent's office, who I found out is my actual brother. So I found that exceedingly odd as well, that was the college that they went to. And and then also they were born in Durham, North Carolina. And my mother went to nurses training in North Carolina, and I believe that's where she actually volunteered for MK Ultra. And my mother's name is Millie, and the character is played by Millie Bobby Brown. What are the odds, right? And
Wow.
and I was raised in Ives Estates, and the character's name is actually Jane Ives, as in Jane Doe from Ives. I went to Mady Ives Elementary School. Tom has the same kind of similarities. When we first met one another, he's like, "Oh my God," he goes, "I believe you," and then we started talking about his book and all the things that they put about his life, and he was like, "I'm sorry that happened to you," and I'm still, because I didn't write a screenplay. Tom did, but I didn't, and I am a writer, but I didn't write this screenplay, and I'm still trying to figure out how these kids, do they have my DNA? Do they have epigenetic memory from me? I know that is my assertion that they have taken my DNA and they've created babies and clones, and they've taken my ovum. So I don't know where these children came from. I don't know if they came from in vitro fertilization. I was pregnant with twins in 1983, in May of 1983, and my husband Steve came to me this one day and said, "If you don't get an abortion, my parents will, they will frame you. They'll put drugs on you. They'll throw you in jail for 25 years, and you will never see these babies." And I saw baby boys from my sight. I saw them. I didn't have any kind of test, but I saw twin baby boys. Well, the Duffer Brothers were born 9 months later. I was pregnant in May. The Duffer Brothers were born in February of 1984. I don't know if they're my twins. I can't say. I don't know. Am I planning on doing any DNA testing? No. But I just find it exceedingly odd that my mother, Millie, attended nursing school, and I believe she went to Duke University, because I tried to trace it out. And the Duffer Brothers go to Duke, and they're born in Durham, North Carolina, where my mother lived in North Carolina. So
I got to ask them, Mario, are you running into any of these synchronicities or coincidences or things that Penny's has run into? And then do you have any recall of like Montauk or that particular, or any of these other projects that some of the others are recalling?
Well, I wanted to say, like, from what you were saying about everything that everything that you just shared, like me looking at my life, my mother was adopted, and that's always been a mystery. So she doesn't know who her biological parents are. And my father, her adopted father, my grandfather, was born and raised in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Which now I kind of feel like, as crazy as it sounds, I think that he was actually a cloned person, also, from Pennsylvania back then. And he's got this whole story of being in the army and seeing Elvis when he was in the army and serving and all this stuff. And
he was in Germany then.
Germany, yeah. So. Oh shit! I didn't even think about that part. So it was when he came back, he moved to LA, and had a wife, and she was an alcoholic that died long before I was born. But my mother is a very gifted. So what I believe my mom is a breeder. I believe she's a hybrid breeder, and my the family that adopted her were her handlers. And the city that she was born, she was raised in Woodland Hills, and in her neighborhood, in her little block area, there were 3 or 4 other girls she grew up with that were all born within days apart, with the one right next to her being born the same day. And she was a Rothschild. So her father was a Rothschild. And I didn't know about this until like a year or 2 ago, when I started caretaking for my mom and started to ask her, vague questions that could give me more information, like, who used to live over there? Who used to live over there? And she's like, oh, so-and-so Rothschild. I'm like, Rothschild? Tell me more. And I'm asking more questions. And apparently, their parents got a divorce, but the father bought that house for them to grow up in. This was the story she told me. And she says, my mom would say, I remember going to her dad's ranch in Santa Barbara, or some fancy rich place out there. And I was like, okay, do you remember how he looks like? And she can't even remember seeing him or how she looks like, but she remembers being picked up, going over there, hanging out with her, growing up for years. And so things like that are like as far as I've gone. And then in terms of like dreams and memories of Montauk and that sort of thing, I've had dreams of being like as a child in the military. So like one dream I've had where I'm training out in a field, just like physical training, like PT training, and somebody higher up comes up to me and tells me that that I have to do my dog fighting training, and they take me down into this other place underground where I had to fight this like genetically modified, massive, scary, beastly dog. And so they put me in this room with this dog, and I killed it. I don't know how, I guess from the fear or some other power, I was able to handle this dog and tear its jaws open and kill it. So that kind of experience.
Like one of the things that they do also, I think James Cosbolt talked about that. He said they threw them in a cage, and they would throw snakes in with them or wolves in with them. And you were to fight this animal that was in there with you. And they said many of the kids died. Does that sound familiar to you?
It does sound familiar. And so when I was in elementary school, during that time when those people came and started testing us, I started having daydreams of me fighting a clone me, And for me, I thought I was just in another, my mind was just wild and daydreaming, but it would be me fighting a clone me to the death. And I would have that often in school, that daydream experience.
Mario, did you go to elementary school in California?
I did. I went to a lot of different elementary schools because we moved around a lot, but it wasn't until the 3rd grade where we stayed in one spot, and things were weird all the way up until then. So in kindergarten, I had that, in kindergarten is where I have that vague abduction memory that doesn't go past further than the van door opening and people trying to grab me, but their faces are all blurred out. So that where I was like that area where we were living was in North Hollywood, Van Nuys, Sepulveda Boulevard.
God.
Which Sepulveda Boulevard is all,
Was the van a white van?
Yeah, it was a white van. So
you are not going to believe this. When I was in elementary school, I had a group of kids I used to walk to school with. One night I had this awful nightmare that me and my friends were walking to school, and there was a white van with a big bald guy in it. And one by one, we started disappearing. It had rained the night before, so it was wet outside. Woke up, my mom said it was a nightmare, go back to bed. The next night, same thing. 3rd night, I was done. It rained that night. We got up to get ready for school. I told my mom I don't want to go. So my mom had my stepdad take us to school. We were driving down the road. We got to the intersection, and there was that white van with that guy in it. And later on that day, there was a child that came up missing from my school.
Wow.
Oh,
and I have a big memory of a child being missing from my school too. Like I remember that we got sent home from school one day with papers saying, "Be careful, there are kids that have gone missing," And then And that's why I'm like, okay, am I just tripping when this vague memory surfaces? Am I making shit up, or is there something actually there? But not until I've found this kind of happening in the world, I'm like, okay, maybe this is actually real, you know. And I haven't done any hypnosis through it or anything like that. But I was really easy picking because during that time, both my parents were like really bad drug addicts. They were like crack cocaine and meth addicts. So my father was in fucking prison during that time in kindergarten, you know. La Land. So I was walking to and from kindergarten by myself, which is when that happened. And it was after that moment that happened when I started to experience my earliest memories of reoccurring lucid dreams. And this is when I started working with somebody who is much older than I am, that started asking me the questions: in what universe is it normal for a 5-year-old child to have reoccurring dreams of being a detective solving murder mysteries that's actually a demon that's causing murders? Like, in what universe is that normal? Because that's the kind of reoccurring dream I was having, where I was a little child, small detective, and every time I'm having the dream, I'm showing up to a new murder scene where there's a body that's like in a weird position, and the head is gone, the head is severed, and what's replacing the head was one of those old toys, the Etch-a-Sketch, where you turn the knobs and it pulls the magnets to make lines. So there would be a design on the Etch-a-Sketch replacing the head and a dead body in a weird position. So I was having this reoccurring dream, and it was like a mystery. Like each death, each puzzle piece was like a mystery, and I was trying to solve it. And I had a special ability. My special ability was I could levitate a couple feet above the ground and move and zip around really fast. And the last dream I had about that was, I'm dreaming, but I wake up from my bedroom and I come out into the kitchen, and there's a dark portal above the kitchen table, and this like super like pure black, you know, entity comes out with a porcelain white face, and then suddenly there's a body on the kitchen table with another thing, and then I don't remember what happens past that. I didn't have those dreams anymore after that one. So I'm sharing this in a session with this person, and she's like, yeah, no, that's not normal for a 5-year-old child to be having those kind of dreams. And so what she said was that's when they began that vague abduction memory is real. And then that's when they began, from what she was picking up, was that they began dosing me with peyote to see what my specialties are in these dream experiences. So if I wasn't having the solving the murder dreams, I was having dreams where I was running as a cheetah or flying as an eagle. And so these were, and what she claimed, I don't know, it's weird. It's weird. It's very weird.
Have you been able to psychically solve any murders?
No, I haven't been called to do that. I mean, I've solved like I'm a whole lot more psychic than I lead myself to believe. So there's a blockage within me that's not allowing the full reign, because like I know like how fucking psychic I am. It's freaking crazy intense. But
How old are you, Mario?
again,
Mario, how old are you?
I'm 33.
Okay.
You know, I had a psychic, a really good one, tell me one time. Didn't know me from boo. And she told me everything I was capable of. And I told her, I said, I locked a lot of it away after my grandmother passed away, because she was my support group. And I said, but I can't seem to unblock some of it. Do you know what she told me? You have to drop your pride. She said, you need to drop your pride, because there is something that is blocking it. And it's usually for psychics, it's usually your pride.
That's really wild you said that too. It's wild you said that, because I always knew that the ego had to go. And I found out that I was despised when my ego was gone. It's something about people expect that arrogance, that ego, to be a normal mode of interaction and function as a human. And when you strip it away, it threatens them. It makes them feel like you must be out for something. You must be trying to gain something. What is your game? What is your angle? You don't have one. And it's just amazing. That's why when I wrote my work, not to tout the work right now, but I want, as an example, when I wrote that work, I was trying to, again, call together people that didn't fit in this world, that actually had that humility and generosity and compassion and creative disciplines to come together. That was it, to gather a remnant. And when you were talking to Mario, you said Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And you just did me a great service, because when you said Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, what a synchronicity. Because my timeline would have been a totally different world if I had said yes in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, to the woman that asked me to be with her from a great dynasty there, a great dynasty. I won't say her name or what that dynasty was, but I was given this leading that it was the right person. It would be peace, brilliant creativity, and it was too easy. I didn't want something too easy, and that may have been from inputs I had. I should have said yes. We'd have a totally different timeline in our world right now. So I do take fault for that. But the thing is, it's very interesting that there's synchronicities occurring all over the place right now. And I think it's amazing. And one more thing, we had a program in my school in Pennsylvania called SRA. And we would go to these private stations, and each of us had to proceed at our own pace and rate. And each of us in elementary school were going through these SRA stations, like second grade, third grade. And I was picked out with 2 other individuals and brought to a special group where we were taught individually out of class. And donuts were brought in, everything else, and we were observed. And they said that I aced everything and should be moved up 2 grades. They were watching to see which of us were inventive. I thought everybody heard music in their head, created in their head, could do painting, sculpting, singing, dancing, acting, writing. I thought everybody had these abilities. Again, people despised you if you had these abilities. The world was backwards. That's why, again, and I'll let it off at this, wrote the piece to gather people that are like yourselves that could come together. So I would ask Brian to cast a wide net on those that you'll gather as your top 10. Make it your top 100. There's many of us out here that are quite gifted, but we're not going to talk about it. Find us. You'll see us.
Tom, how old were you when they wanted to advance you?
I was in 3rd grade.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, Brian, too, use the ability you have to gather more and more. Never cap it off. There's going to be tons more with incredible gifts. Keep putting the puzzle pieces together. Don't shut it off.
Yeah, Tom, they wanted to advance me in 3rd grade to fifth grade.
Now, Brian, what about you? I mean, I know you're heading this disclosure movement and all that, but what about you? What abilities or what prompts you to step up and do this?
So for me, it's still a big question mark. If I've been in any of the programs or not. I've gotten from 2 different people who've I've done consults with different people, or psychics and readers and healers, and both of them, I can't remember the first one said, but the most recent one, she also got a hit, if you will, a psychic impression that I've been in logistics up there in some of the secret space programs. I don't know. I've also been told by Arkeem that during Montauk 3.0, when the kids took over the base and kicked out the bad guys after summoning Junior, the Sasquatch, to tear up the base and get rid of the bad guys, that they may have helped my father to be successful with SANG Labs Incorporated, and it's on Wikipedia, and be so successful in revolutionizing the computer chip or the computer graphics chip field back in the 80s and 90s, that it would position me to be here to have enough money and resources and time and training to, do my part to organize the movement. It's not that I'm leading the movement by any means, but I'm doing my role to coordinate as best I can, Yeah.
That's actually amazing to be able to get everybody together. And
Is this your dad, Jack Non-Singh?
Yeah, Jack Shannon sang, or was his kind of full
the
name.
HQ was in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, we were in Newtown, Pennsylvania, and then we moved over to New Hope, and then I got to go to the Lawrenceville school, this elitist boarding school, private boarding school, and then I got to go out to California to Occidental College get a degree in biochem with a minor in economics with an environmental emphasis. And then I got to be in the biochem field really briefly, realized I did not like the pharmacy stuff at all. And then I got to organize physicians in California nationally for about 8 years. And that's where I learned my organizing and advocacy skills. And then I got to go into solar and work for Tesla for a bit, selling their EVs and solar for a while. So I learned some sales and marketing. And then fled San Francisco after or during the scamdemic. Now I'm in northern Nevada in Winnemucca as a prepper. And I'm using Winnemucca. And I'm doing certain business ventures to generate the resources so I can help fund the movement however I can.
This is so wild. You just said New Hope, Pennsylvania. Mario says Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. No. Okay, I may have to take a break in a moment. My head mind's
I know I had to.
The New Hope, Pennsylvania is huge in my life. And anyway, that's how I actually started becoming aware of the Nazi connection in our country. Because in New Hope, are you really familiar with New Hope, Brian?
It actually says Newtown, Pennsylvania.
Well, there's
New Hope.
So there's two towns. They're close together. Newtown was more. New Hope was a little bit more hoity-toity, old school, if you will.
Well, it's got some amazing. Are you familiar with the shops in New Hope?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Do you know the one where they have all the vintage outfits and costuming? Actually, real.
Now was that the Now and Then?
Yeah. So they had a Nazi submarine leather coat there. This is bizarre. We're talking about this, and I tried that on, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, and that turned me on to actually exploring what was that all about. Mm-hmm. And then they had Civil War Union. This is blowing my mind. But that actually was a pivotal moment. That mirror in that shop, and then you got the canal through New Hope, and we would go there from Central West. All the high school kids, we would go there.
It's 11 miles away.
Yeah, and it's very different, a very different town than anything else around.
Because New Hope is right there on the Delaware River, down the way from where Washington crossed the Delaware. It's Washington's crossing. Yeah, and there's a lot of like occult stuff there, and historic stuff there, and Civil War stuff there, and then old money, and so a lot of the stuff that I was not aware of when I was a young Asian American immigrant kid.
What was your impression, Brian? Because I was repelled and drawn, both. I was drawn to it because it was so different than anything around, but I was also feeling a weird energy about it where I was like, this doesn't feel right being here. Did you have anything like that?
There's a little bit of sometimes a weird kind of bourgeois vibe to some extent, but for the most part, I've got a lot of just really good, happy memories about New Hope in that area. I just feel really privileged to have gotten to grow up there because it's still got the woods and it had the farms in the area, a lot of that charm that's been lost these days in a lot of this country.
Interesting.
Oh, you're muted. What was that, Tom?
I said we have different takes on it. That is really cool because I felt really drawn to it, but also something underlying current that I wasn't able to put my finger on. So it was just like this layered feeling about it. So, anyway, this is interesting, very interesting. I never thought it was surface.
Okay. Can you explain the Washington, Delaware thing? Because I went to Lambertville and had something very strange happen to me in Lambertville.
So Lambertville is literally right across the Delaware River from New Hope. And then that's where it's like 11 miles away from like Newtown or whatever. But Lambertville has, again, because of that Civil War heritage and the occult heritage of some of the older colonies being in that region, there's a lot of haunted stuff in that area. So if you had any weird spiritual happenings to you, I wouldn't be surprised in that area.
Actually, so I went to Lambertville because I found out that my brother's father's middle name was Lambert. So I went to Lambertville, but I didn't want to go in Lambertville. So I parked across the bridge.
That's New Hope.
Right. And I So I parked
Yeah.
across the bridge
Why
and I
tell?
went in and I said, "Hey, did anything weird happen on that bridge?" And they said, "Not that we know of, Penny." And I said, "All right, well, I'm parking over here and then I'm going to walk over the bridge to Lambertville." When I went over the bridge, I couldn't turn left or right. I saw bodies floating in the river. And I sang, "Jesus loves me," to get to the other side. When I got to the other side, it was Whitney Houston version. When I got to the other side, I was kind of shaken up. I walked through Lambertville. It was creepy. And then when I went back, there was a train station thing there. It was a restaurant. And I yelled out to the guy, "Hey, do you have any ghosts in there?" And he said, "Yes, we do, Penny."
Yes.
And I said, "Here's my
Lambertville
card.
Station.
Call me." Yes. I said, "Here's my
That's
card.
Lambertville Station. Yeah.
Call me." Then when I went to go back over the bridge again, there was a guy there who was like in a little booth thingy, and I said, "Hey, did anything weird happen on this bridge?" And he said, "No, it was in a little bit of disrepair in 2016." And I said, "Okay then." And then I started walking across it again, only this time it was even worse. And I was almost on my knees because I felt it was a small bridge. I felt like it's swaying,
Mhm.
but it wasn't. And I couldn't turn left or right because I'm seeing dead bodies floating in the river, like thousands of them.
Were they wearing uniforms?
Yes.
So
And
you might have been getting a Civil War impression, or not a Civil War, a revolution. I kept saying Civil War this whole time. Revolutionary War impressions.
right. So I sang "Jesus Loves Me" to get to the other side again. And then when I went into the Starbucks, I said, "Did anything weird happen on that bridge?" And the kids are like, "No, Penny." I go, don't do that. Like a little disrepair thing. So I looked it up, and about, I don't know, 60 years before, the bridge cracked in half.
Hmm.
But that wasn't what I saw because it was a small bridge. So if it cracked in half, they had like flooding and there were about 25,000 people that were dispossessed, but that wasn't what I saw. So I had a handler. His name was George, and Susie knows who I'm talking about. And I said, "George," I told him what happened and what I saw. And he said, "I think you're seeing," he said, "Where are you?" I said, "I don't know. I thought I was in Delaware." I just told him where I was. He said, "Do you know that Washington crossed at Delaware, right?" And I'm like, "Okay, I don't understand. What are you saying? Are you saying that I'm seeing like a Revolutionary War, the Civil War? Am I seeing the Civil War that happened before, or the Civil War that's going to happen?" and and I saw the bridge crack in half, and I saw what I saw on either side was thousands of bodies floating in the river. It wasn't just a couple. It was like thousands of bodies. And I wondered if I was seeing like an amalgamation of two timelines because then COVID happened.
Mhm.
And I was anticipating a civil war occurring February 2nd, 2020. And that was the first COVID directive that occurred in the United States. And Brian, some of my stuff has to do with some time travel things that have to do with the first individual. I forget what his name was. He was a time traveler, and he said that we were going to have a war in like 2012. Only he went back in time to get some technology off of a certain computer chip that they weren't making. And I was working in 1980 for NBI, which was a computer. It was a dedicated word processor, one of the first ones that they had. So this guy went back in time to get a 5200 computer chip, which I thought maybe might have averted the 20 what was it, the
Year 2K.
1999. Yes, I thought it might have been averted that. So I worked for NBI, which, I was a director. I was the director's executive director, executive assistant, and I had a 4200, which is the difference was 10, right? 100 or 10. So I figured that everything was that he said that was going to happen in 2012 was actually going to happen in 2022 or thereabouts. But I figured things out because I'm a cipherist. I don't know if any of this is making any sense. Anyway, y'all just freaked me out.
Well, I have a question for, this is great, Penny, you shared all that, like Brian and Mario both. I saw a comment here, I think it's wonderful. Why are there always blood sacrifices on energetically potent land? Great question. Great question. So my question is this. Now the church, Catholic Church, others do exorcisms and things like that. What can be done, do you guys believe, or any of your guests that you'll be having, that can cleanse a damaged land spiritually? Like what can be done? Because I will feel the energy in a land. I think what you guys just helped me clear up with New Hope is that my empathy was being kicked in, my compassion kicked in, but I didn't see anything to kick it in with. But it was something going on in a spiritual level. But what do you guys know anything about what you can do to help heal a land spiritually, whatever, that those of us with empathy that walk in there will not have to worry about it and just celebrate again the land and that energy is on it?
So to answer that excellent question, what it is the evildoers. These are people who are service to self, who are working with negative archonic energies. They are doing their best to taint the Earth's energetic grid system. And Earth, and apparently this is, I'm learning this from Kim Go-Gan on United Network News. She's doing excellent interviews with Sonny Galt. They're saying that Earth is what you call like a gateway planet, where you can have people, you can access both the higher heaven type realms and the lower dimensional hell realms from the Earth planet, from this planet. And that's one reason why the Earth is so hotly contested. And every planet is living and conscious, kind of just like us humans. We have a body, we have energetic like acupuncture points. Well, on the Earth likewise has energetic acupuncture points. Apparently the Earth has the equivalent of heart and lungs and a brain and all of that, and digestive system. And so what these negative people are doing, they're trying to put Earth and the rest of us on a negative timeline. And to do that, they're trying to put Earth into a negative energetic cycle, if you will, by poisoning these sites. So that's where you get like the Catholic churches or whatever, these covens, they're establishing negative anti-holy sites on these energetic ley lines and vortex energy points. And so the way that you heal that, one big way, is by doing light work. It's by going to these places, and there are people who are more psychically gifted, who are able to pull energy down from source and from the heavens and inject that into the earth. That's a lot of the work that we were doing at the Montauk, during the Montauk Adventure Tour there at Camp Hero, because there's a ley line intersection there, and the psychically gifted people, they were, oh, hey, Karen Ann, it's awesome. She's pointing out the sacred geometry of these vortexes and these different energy points. And it wasn't me, because I'm kind of psychically blocked. I have a hard time seeing behind the veil so far. But the others, they were talking about being able to see orbs bursting forth from the ground and golden energy shooting up from this one ley line vortex point that had been previously tainted. And we were doing healing there. To me, it was like a nice, beautiful summer day. To them, they're seeing all the astral and etheric fireworks. See, Mr. Lebo, gateway planet like an intergalactic spaceport of sorts with portals and access to all densities. No wonder bad actors seek to hijack. Yep, key points and key areas and key people. Exactly. And then I know Mario is going to have a lot of input too to answer your question there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've actually, this is part of my mission, and I actually used the term deployed. I actually was deployed in 2020 to travel the country and start working with these energetic grid points, and to locate some of these points that are very well kept hidden secret or long forgotten. The smallest towns keep the darkest secrets, you know. And when you actually explore cities and towns on foot and walk around and see things, you get the whole picture, and looking into the past. And I love what you were saying, Brian, about Earth being a gateway of experiencing multiple different levels, because that reminds me of a Buddhist term, Buddhist phrase of, I believe it was the Ganges River, where the Ganges River, depending on where your emotional spiritual state, could either appear as a burning river of fire or in hell, or if you're at a higher state, it appears like heaven, and there's like a golden river flowing through. And because I practice different forms of Buddhism, and what Buddhism teaches us is that there are 10,000 realms of existence of every given moment. And so that really feels connected and aligned with what you were saying about Earth. So going back to your questions, Tom, so part of like what I feel my training has been, separate than the disclosure stuff, going into more of like my starseed connection. Part of that, like my training has been developed, like using what my psychic gifts are to connect to the land and to start changing the energy and all of that. And I want to say that there are so many different ways to actually heal the grid and heal places where there's a dark hold on. And there's no really right or wrong way. There might be different levels of intensity and impact, but the thing is that it's all done to the limits of our imagination. So what everybody who does this kind of work can come and with their imagination bring their own unique style. And you can actually use, things like copper wires and crystals and sacred geometry. That's like a much more advanced level where you're using physical science and metaphysical science to change this. But if you don't have that, and if you're just a lone soldier on foot traveling into these dark places, then what I do is I use my physical vessel, opening my heart and allowing higher celestial energies to come through my vessel, through my heart, and maintain a level of awareness of the magnetic grid where we are, and visualize sacred geometry sort of shifting everything. And I'll say things, and like I'll have like different mantras that'll come up in that specific moment. Things like, transmute everything back to the original divine blueprint, back to the original divine template. So in 2020, when the pandemic started, it was right around May where I literally got the green light, and they're like, you gotta go, deployment time. Ended up moving to Arkansas for several months, living in a van. I didn't know until I was in Arkansas that Arkansas is world capital of quartz crystals. There's also diamonds and gold, and it's a very precious area over there in Arkansas. And I stayed in Hot Springs, Arkansas, which is the boy town where Bill Clinton grew up in. And so I spent a lot of time out there connecting with these crystals, and I was experiencing dreams where they were showing me maps across the US that were just going all over the place. And so what I ended up doing was mining crystals. I mined buckets of quartz crystals and put them in my van, and was just like, all right, I'm going to travel the country and make little crystal grids and medicine wheels and go into my little shamanic trance and bang the drum and just meditate and do all this work. And back to the comment of why they use blood on this thing. Well, blood, is like water, but it has DNA. There's more different organisms within it, and so it carries very powerful energy that is connected to source. There's like a soul vibration connected to that, and so the blood shedding, what's being done with the blood shedding is that there's that sacrifice, there's that trauma, there's that memory imprint into the blood. And when it's spilled onto the earth, onto the soil, where there are high level dark magicians that are conjuring at the same time. And then also what I've come to notice in my experiences in my journey is that where there will also be statues. There also will be a lot of different statues around these energetic grid points where they have a hold on them, old statues. And over when I was in Hot Springs, Arkansas, traveling the main city area where all the tourists come, I'm walking around and I'm seeing all the statues and I'm putting pieces together, and there's an old building. I don't remember how old, but I think it was like during the Civil War time, and it was once a mental asylum. And And going back to the first episode where I was talking to you guys about the red door, remember the red door thing? Back when I was a kid, anytime I'd see a red door, I had this automatic response where I would shout, red door, red door, red door, and feel like this like angsty, panicky thing that I never understood, but would laugh at it at the same time. Well, I was in this psychic space, roaming this area, and was like, okay, I have a feeling that, you know, this around this area, because there's deep underground military bases in Little Rock, Arkansas, which is not far from Hot Springs. So what I was picking up psychically was somewhere around this area, not so much that old building, but maybe once upon a time is where they were conducting a lot of these experiments, MK Ultra experiments and torture experiments, and there was a red door room in one of those areas. And I'm doing a spirit walk, you know, so I'm walking this town in a trance, in a psychic space, and as I'm walking, I'm synchronistically with my thoughts stumbling upon things that are confirming what I'm picking up on. And there's this weird
Mario, can you hear me? Just real quick, it wasn't the Hernando de Soto Hot Springs, Arkansas area. You see, here's a room with red doors. Wasn't that one, was it? And statues. Just wondering.
No, not that one.
Okay.
No. These were out in the city, not in a museum.
Okay.
So there's like a weird Tim Burton looking jagged house statue, and I'm approaching it from the behind, and I'm like, son of a bitch, if the door on this house is red, then this is confirming to what I'm feeling over here. And I walk around it, the door is red. And so then I start getting these visualizations of what they were doing there in Arkansas, because it's world capital of quartz crystals. And we know the power and amplitude that quartz crystals can do. Well, on this mountain where there's this old Civil War building that used to be a mental asylum is at, I forgot the name of the mountain. That's the fucking thing right there. I was walking from behind and I come around and I was like, there it is, the red door, you know? So on the mountain in that city, there is a massive radio tower. Huge radio tower. Yeah, look it up. I don't remember the name of it. That's it right there. That's the huge, maybe it used to be a fire tower or whatever, but that's it right there. And so what I was understanding what these high level dark magicians were doing is that this is one of the points, very powerful, massive, energetic ley line point where when you are doing these rituals and sacrificing and torturing people, using the crystals and also using actual science with radio waves, frequencies, metal and crystals emitting a certain frequency through the entire world, using one of the world's largest deposits of quartz crystals to perpetuate mental illness, confusion. So the frequencies that they were emitting from there are like the frequencies that you see really mentally ill people that are homeless fighting with themselves. It's coming, this sadness, this torture is coming from this is one of those points, and like fucked up shit going on there. So I was there and I was like, all right, let me do some shifty wifty out here, you know, and bring in some higher energies. And that was in 2020 when that happened. And from there, from Arkansas, when I, you know, loaded up my van full of those crystals, I went to Colorado, I went to New Mexico, I went to Arizona, I went to South Dakota, to Wyoming, I went to the Grand Tetons. Like I was on a spirit mission. But that's as far as the level that I've gone to. There are other folks, like I saw today when, Brian, when you were sharing the website, that Rion is going to be there. I didn't know that. I'm a huge fan of Rion, and he has done this like grid work across the planet. Like he's worked himself to a very high level of doing this. And I'm just like walking into it. You know what I'm saying? Not to down talk myself, but yeah.
Unless someone has a thought, I'll step aside a second, but I have a follow-up. Okay. This is really cool because I heard about, I think it was Arkansas, that has that place that's like, there's been some of the biggest gem finds ever in that state, if I'm not mistaken. And they have this dig thing where you come and buy a little lot shovel and you dig up, and they've still been finding these amazing finds of gems. One of the things that stands out to me, like when I was on Maui for a long time, you find stacks of rocks. People will stack rocks up at points they feel energetic or strong, and I always like that. And I'll find places myself. I love that you go around and trying to search these things out. One of the things I wanted to ask you is if by observing animals, you could determine if there's been a bloodletting ceremony, things like that, the behavior of animals on certain spots, and that there's so many religions that have sacrifice of animals in the blood as part of it. And I was always turned off of that as a child, that was part of ceremony, the loss of innocent lives in order to complete a ceremonial function. But do you believe that animals, that they are affected in those areas? Maybe it's a basic question, but
that is a beautiful question, and I never even had that specific of a thought about animals being used in that way. I guess I just never thought about that and haven't noticed anything. But what I do notice when I am doing this work out there, that the animal kingdom, the insect kingdom, and the nature really make themselves present. When I get in that kind of zone, if I just look up, boom, hawk. If I'm just right, they're always there. A deer, some kind of, is always holding the space and assisting and protecting. So that's been my experiences with the animals. I've even have recorded videos from doing this work where connecting to land in Washington, doing my bird calls, because I'm able to do bird calls that really hit a specific frequency that I haven't been able to hear anybody else hit. Anyways, I've summoned like 4 eagles, out there in Washington to come and be there, and they were perched up on the tree. And but that's as far as what I've witnessed and experienced with the animals out there.
Well, I'm glad Penny's going to have you on the dream team too, because we have a lot to talk about. Because I was called like the saint of animals, basically, because the animals just came. So we have a lot to talk about. This is very interesting. And yeah, I wonder if it's like when a dog comes up and licks a wound on a person, are animals gravitating to wounded areas for a healing type thing? I mean, there's so much more to animals than humanity is ever.
Tom, I'll tell you, my little Chihuahua, he goes everywhere with me. And if I'm in bed, I'm having a bad dream, he will crawl off the pillows and lay across me and actually wake me up. Our connection that I have with him is just outstanding. So yes, I have always believed that animals are just chest pain. My cat would lay on me and purr and balance me out. I mean, animals are they're outstanding.
See, I think that's one of my, you can see that in Mario too, what you're speaking. It makes me feel so good, is that, wounded animals always going to be the mule deer came up at the Grand Canyon. All 3 came around me until these people started taking pictures and they ran off. But wounded, a blue heron, very big one, came up and laid against my right thigh because it was wounded, it was hurt. I said, this animal's hurt. It looked up with its eyes. So I think we can regain the beauty of the trust of our other fellow beings. That would be really a beautiful thing, and that's one of the things I want to see healed in this world. So I'm so glad you guys are doing the work you're doing, and Brian, that you're gathering people to make a difference.
Thank you. To speak a little bit to that, it wasn't so much on the animal side, but when we were at Camp Hero on Montauk, doing the healing work there in particular, not only were there animals like all over and present, but some of our more psychically gifted people like Jessica, the cryptid huntress, and big Long Island Bigfoot Mike Colantonio, they were able to sense and I guess psychically see or sense nature elementals, fairies, Sasquatch. They were there just like the animals to hold space for the healing work that we were doing. And also other energetic work we're doing where we were visiting some of the bodies of water, like Lake Montauk. And I know Chastity Campbell, like we got together kind of, some of us as like a prayer circle in the water. and Chastity touched her wand into the water and like put blessings in. And, apparently this makes a big difference. And, I know prayer makes a big difference to any believers out there. And then if you're a scientist, you can talk about the quantum fields and quantum effects. That intentionality that Mario is speaking about, don't discount the power that you individually have to use positive visualization, positive intent to inject, call upon blessings and prayers from above to make a difference, because that's the spiritual work that we need to do to shift the world now. Not only are we telling the truth and pulling back the curtain, of the darkness, but we're also raising the vibrations. And the more of us do that, obviously, the better.
I have a question and one more, and I'll shut up. The thing is, extraterrestrials, obviously, this is a huge universe, and it's not just meant for us. And one of the things that kept coming to me, even as a child, was that some of us are like ambassadors on Earth, where what's going on, and you can give me your thoughts on this, where we are, if humanity wants to advance, then we have to prove ourselves interesting in one sense, loving in another. And it's like looking at a hill of ants. If ants start behaving in a way that they are actually doing something unexpected and brilliant and taking care of each other, things like this, I think that's what will draw attention from benevolence in our universe, that they'll be looking for like attracts like. And I think that the more we do for each other, lifting each other, the more we, I believe, even as a child, I thought, we up our chances of having the right beings with us.
Well, that's the only chance, from my understanding, because of the Prime Directive.
I was always told that, and always known there's other beings on this planet. But my thing was, I had asked a question one day, well, where are they? Why don't they show themselves? And do you know what I was told? Because humans are savage. We're mean. And we're destructive, and they are very kind and afraid to,
Such an important point you just said, Brenda. I think if I may just take a stage one more time here, just to make a point, is that's exactly what the studios want us to believe. We've been conditioned that way, haven't we? Yet those of us here, and many of us attending, we were born into a world where we cared right from the get-go, right from the start. Yeah. We were not brutal. We were not evil. We were super kind, where people would say to us, I'm sure we've all heard this basically, you're too good for this world. So basically, they control the narrative of what humanity is, even religions a lot of times. And it's like, we don't fit it. We are very kind, loving people. And I embrace my brothers and sisters that have always been this way. And I even fantasized when I was little that we could have a different planet that the kind ones can go to, the rest can have this one. But it's like, I would think good things happen. And I'm so glad you guys are doing what you're doing again. Thanks.
Yeah. And sorry, Mario.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, the very first, well, not the very first time, but the time that I had seen a reptilian, I didn't ask, what is that? Where'd it come from? The only thing I asked, and I was just a child, was, why does it smell like that? And I was told, because it lives underground. I said, well, they don't take baths underground? I mean, and that was the only thing that I said. I didn't get freaked out or afraid of it. I do know that they were guarded, kept, like they were kept an eye on. But that's all I wanted to know was why they smelled so bad. I felt bad for them. Like I wanted to give them perfume or something. And I was just a small kid. And I was still going to embrace this thing that I had no idea really at a young age what it was. I knew it was different.
They smell like ammonia?
Actually, it smelled like a difference between a really bad garbage and sulfur.
Okay.
Yeah. It was, and any time that I've seen them after that, the person who I can't say their name, who abused me, I smelt that with him, but I couldn't see because they were behind me. But every time, if I'm in a grocery store and they know, I know, somebody walks by me and I smell that, I will look and they'll be turning around looking at me and staring at me like they know I know who they are. But I would never, I mean, yes, I would defend myself against them if I have to. I probably wouldn't have a chance because I would think that they are a lot more advanced than we are. But I would never do anything to harm anything. I did fight an owl one time, and I will never do that again. Do not advise it to anybody because it'll kick your ass. But yes, but so being, Tom is right. People have to learn to be a lot more kind. People, we have to learn to live together. Whether we are human or whether we are humanoid, everybody has to learn to live together and be kind. I
Yes,
don't know.
I think it's just wrong that I have to tell people that, like in our chats,
Yes.
I have to say, please be kind to one another. That shouldn't be something that we need to tell one another,
Yes.
but unfortunately we do. Susie
Oh, yeah.
has something that she wants to say. I
All
just
right.
had to leave because
Okay.
Lily wanted to go out and see her babies. Now, I moved the babies right outside here, and she went in and she nursed them. She knows where they are, but she went back to the barn. So I had to go out to the barn to get her and bring her back in the dark with a light to show her where her babies are, where she knew where they were, but somehow she forgot. Susie, you want to tell us
Yeah. Let
something
me
about forgetting?
let me unmute her. Go ahead, Susie.
Okay. Brian, you were texting me about the thing that I saw in the sky the other night. Okay, so it's the third time it's happened. What I saw was one night, me and my son Joel, who's like 20 years old, right? So we were walking through the yard and we looked up and we saw this bright light, and then it kind of got it. It looked like a flashlight, like a star, but bigger and real bright. But then it kind of got dim, like it had fog around it, and it got bigger, and then it shot out like a donut. It looked like a poof of a cloud. It shot out a donut, and then it went into the donut and it disappeared. So, but what happened was and then I saw the second one on February 7th, just recently. I was coming up from the back pasture on my four wheel drive. My all-terrain vehicle. Okay. And I'd come through the gate and I looked up in the sky, and over the tree line, I have a horse arena. It was like over that area was this bright light again. And it looked like a flashlight, real bright. And then it would do the same thing. It would fog out and then get bigger and then go back to a flashlight. And then it turned. And when it turned, it blew out another donut, and then it went into the donut, and then it all vanished. It turned to a little cloud and it vanished. Well, I took a bunch of pictures of it that night. I took a bunch of photos of it, like when it was bright, when it was dim, when it was fogging, and when it shot the donut out, and then when it disappeared and it just turned into a poofy cloud, little tiny cloud, and disappeared. So yeah, it was Wednesday night. I think it was Wednesday night, or was it last night? Was it last? No, it was Wednesday night, right, Penny? Anyway, so I'm walking through the yard again about the same time of night, just getting dark, and I'm with my friend Roger, and I look over and I see that light again in the sky, and it's real bright. And I go, "What is that, Roger?" Because I kind of already know what it is now because I've already seen it twice. I go, "What is that, Roger?" He goes, "I don't know." And I go, "Does it look like an airplane?" "I don't know." And then it got dim again, and then it turns and it shoots out a donut again. And I said, look at that. It's just like it did it before. And it shoots out, it just like blows a smoke ring donut. And then it just goes into it and they both vanish. And I said, see, that's the third time I've seen it. Well, today, this is really strange. After I seen this donut this time, I'm thinking it looks like something going into a portal, like a, like, you know, like it, like a time, like if you saw this bright light and then shoot like a ring and it goes into it, it vanishes. It's like a timeline or something changed.
Would you want the interpretation, and then I'd like to hear Mario's interpretation as well.
Well, let me finish real quick. So what happened was I was going through the woods. We had a fence that with the cows, the trees fell down on the fence, and we were trying to fix it. And I saw this bottle stuck in the ground, and so I went to get the bottle out, but I couldn't get it out. It'd been in the ground a long time, so I had to dig it out. I was carrying a pair of bolt cutters, a tool that you drive fence posts in the ground with. I was a post driver. I was carrying that, and I was carrying a pair of pliers, fence pliers. So I had to use the pliers to dig it out. And when I pulled it out, it was this old, weird shaped bottle that had some liquid in it. And I thought, wow, I've never seen a bottle like that. It's the weirdest looking thing I ever seen. And when I set it on the ground, I ended up leaving my pliers next to it. And I got up and walked off and left my fence pliers there. Well, when I got over to where the fence was, I said, where's my pliers? And then I said, oh my gosh, I think I left them over there. Joel, I think I left them over there by that bottle. She says, well, I'll go get it. So he runs over to go get it. And he comes back. He said, that was the weirdest looking bottle I ever saw. And he said, the weirdest thing happened. He said, when I looked at the bottle, I forgot about the tool, and I walked off and I left the tool. That bottle mesmerized me. And I'm like, it did it to you too? And I'm like, that's weird. Like, what the hell? So then today I asked my son, I said, wasn't that weird what happened to you and me at that bottle? He said, what are you talking about? He said, I go, well, you said you left that tool laying there and you walked off like I did and you were mesmerized. He goes, I never said that. I didn't say I was mesmerized. And I go, yeah, you did. And I'm like, really? Is this like a Mandela effect? Like, you don't remember?
Where's the bottle now? Where's this bottle now, Susie?
It's still sitting in the same
I
spot.
just asked her that because Lily.
Why you didn't bring it in? Go get it.
Okay.
No, Brian, because I sent
That's
you
what I told her.
pictures
Go
of the
get that
babies.
bottle.
Okay, I sent you pictures of the baby, the puppies, right?
Okay, but the
I
thing
moved the
is-
puppies from the barn.
Hang
and
on one second. Hang on. One more thing. One more point to this. I say, then Roger walks in the door and I say, Roger, okay. I said, all right, tell me, what did Joel say when he came back from looking at that bottle? He said he was mesmerized and that he left, and I said, he left the tool, right? He goes, yeah. Joel goes, I don't remember saying that. I can't believe that. I'm like, wow, and I go, yeah, see, he's my witness because, and see, he and I saw that donut thing. I think it has something to do with some
I told you last night to go get that bottle and bring it.
What I'm saying is that I sent Brian pictures of the puppies, and I brought Lily. I brought all the puppies. I brought Lily. It's right outside this door. She can hear her babies crying. And I brought her in there. She nursed her babies, and then she asked to go out. And I look, she walks right, goes right over to the barn. So I followed her, and I'm like, Lily, what are you doing here? Like, she forgot. I mean, that's not a normal thing for an animal to do. She knows her babies. She can hear her babies crying. And she went to the barn, and I went and I got her, and I said, Lily, and I brought her back here and showed her where her babies are. She trusts me, so that's why she followed me. But there's some weird thing going on with the forgetting thing. I don't know what that bottle is because I just asked her, where's the bottle? Everyone's asking, like, where's the bottle, Susie? Where's it now? She said, well, I left it there. And I'm like, dude, there's something wrong with Lily because she forgot where her babies are. And also, I just wanted to add that before the donut thing happened, I bought Susie a donut maker. So
I think
Yeah,
I'm
nice.
gonna have to make another trip out to y'all's house. Susie, you need to pull that bottle up. I need to come over there. All right. The take on all of that from Brian and Mario. Let's do that because we are getting ready to run out of time, and I really want to hear this. So go ahead, Brian.
So my take is that there are certain people, star seeds, who have either friend or foe watching over us at any given time. And to me, my interpretation of that is that they clearly were happy with you seeing them. I would term them being on the friendly side. You're probably witnessing them not only, they're in the area, but when they go to portal out, it might suck a little bit of energy from their ship to generate a portal. So it dims a bit, generates a portal, it gets brighter, and then goes through. I mean, that's kind of the sense that I get. And that after 2019, especially, I heard that certain Star Nations treaties have ended, meaning that the ETs are now allowing themselves to be seen. The positively oriented ETs are saying it's okay for them and Sasquatch and all this stuff to be revealed. And it's no longer going to violate the Prime Directive so much. They're not coming right out landing on the White House lawn, but that's the spiritual side of it, is that it would be a disservice for them to appear to us before we're ready. And the way that we're determined to be ready is when we're spiritually evolved enough that it's not going to stunt our growth culturally and societally. We're not going to hit our knees and just start worshiping them. We're not going to take their UFO ships that they give us and, fly them at light speed into like the buildings of people we don't like, that they can't afford, and they won't do that. So that, I hope that answers people's questions on that front. And then I want to hear Mario's take on this phenomenon, much less the bottle. I don't even want to touch that. I might have to assign that as a blind target to some of our remote viewer friends.
I want to touch it. I want to touch it. I want to hold it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was thinking of, oh, wow, that's really interesting. Well, I mean, first off, it's fascinating that that's in the ground in your property. So, like, who put that there? How long has it been there? But another thing that was just, coming to my mind was like, oh, it's a port key, like from Harry Potter. There are certain things that you can touch and they're port keys, and they'll just suck you and transfer you into another point in space and time. But I don't think that that's what a port key, but that's when that's just one of the places my mind went to. But it's interesting because so that happened like Wednesday night, you said?
We can't unmute yourself.
No, I think it happened. Well, I have been working my tail off all week fixing fence. It was yesterday, wasn't it, Penny?
I'm not sure because
Yes,
I was working in here.
it was yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I was wondering because at some point you said Wednesday, and so on Wednesday when I was coming home from work and I get off work at midnight, I was listening to a channeler that was talking about Arcturians, and when I get home, as I'm unlocking my door, I start hearing a noise, and I'm like, "What the hell is that noise coming from?" And I'm staring out for a while. The noise was coming from my pocket. And my phone on its own opened the Sky Map app, which I don't know how it did it. It opened, and that app hasn't been opened since October of last year. So, and my phone doesn't open apps on its own in my pocket. So I'm like, okay, that's really interesting. So I was wondering if we were having those experiences around the same time. But going back to what Brian said, I do agree about the whole starseed connection, because I've experienced strange moments where I found some type of random object that left me very confused. It's a mystery, and as an astrologer, one of the things that I've learned studying Pisces in the 12th house and all the water signs with mystery is like some components of mysteries aren't always necessarily meant to be fully known. That's why there's a term mystery. There's mystery to it, but it's the magic of the mystery that keeps us compelled in seeking in a lot of and being open down the journey. So for me, when I've come across random objects like that, I'm like, okay, this is part of the mystery of me, of the unfolding of my journey. So a lot of the times when that happens, what I feel is that it's a future, like a way distant future aspect of myself that's just giving me another little bit of clues of like, hey, you know, we're here, you're here, we're doing this work. You know, this is a checkpoint, you know. So when I'd come across these things, I'd be like, checkpoint, my future self and me, we're here, checkpoint. And then as time goes on, more things will come together and help add more understanding to the mystery. And so one of my mantras is time tells the tallest tales to truth. So that's what's helped me not obsess when things happen that are mysterious in the immediate moment. Because when we obsess, then we become overloaded with too many things that distort the integrity of what's actually happening. So I acknowledge it. This is what I do with my dreams too. And when I have certain dreams, I acknowledge the dream, I analyze it, I don't get attached to it, I observe it, and then I just let it rest. And as time goes on, the tale continues to unfold. Just like how Tom today experienced 2 synchronicities from both Brian and myself, bringing up Pennsylvania. And turns out Penny has a connection to that too. And it took time for these new connections to come about. So just the bottle, the shape of the bottle, how you found it, what you were doing, all of that stuff. I think it's very interesting. I think it's benevolent. I think it's connected to starseed aspects, could be future aspects of yourself. It could be all of us, future aspects of all of us, you know, choosing you in that moment to have that experience to remind all of us that we are checkpoint right here in this nexus point as we are converging timelines and worlds. So that's my take on that.
I just think of something really quick and then I'll pass it over. As far as films, decoding films, and Penny, you can comment on this also. They take the work, they alter the timelines, they take the work from those of us that have been downloading this stuff for a purpose for humanity, and they alter it using failed people to totally mislead everyone. It's going to be a golden age, a wonderful time when we reclaim all these different works, open up a system where it can be reclaimed and they can be shown the way in their pure, untainted form before they were given to the hands of failures. It's going to be amazing, all these visionary, because what of our choices to actually convey visions? Often we go to script writing and books. And so when the reclaiming, the great non-book burning happens, it's going to be amazing when we get like the fire and whatever, reverse it. I'm looking forward to that brilliant time. But this has been fascinating, guys.
Yes. All right, we are running out of time, so real quick, let's do a run through where everybody can be found. Penny, start with you.
Yes, you can find me on the Awake Nation Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central, 9 to 12 noon Eastern. And you can also find me here on Beyond the Box from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central, and that's 10 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern. And also I'm doing the Dark Outpost. That is a TV subscription. So if you'd like to join that, Suzanne Hott will be on there also doing Hot Shots. She's also on the Awake Nation, as is Tom Althouse. Tom Althouse is on the Trauma Triage team, which is on Mondays. And then we try to present scenarios that create trauma and also solutions and try to mend some hearts along the way. And then he's also with me in a segment every other Friday for the Dream Team, in which we decode movies and also dreams and visions, things that come true. And I want to tell everybody to please watch John Dies in the End. That's a very important movie as far as timelines are concerned. And if you'd like to contribute to Suzanne Hott to help with her animals and her dogs, you can find her at bowarrowhorses@yahoo.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. And Brian, go ahead and do a rundown real quick.
Yeah. So I'm a regular contributing co-host on Awake Nation with Penny and David Zublik every other Friday morning.
I'm sorry, Brian. I forgot to mention that.
Oh yeah, no. I got that covered. Don't worry about that, Penny. You got plenty to introduce already. And then I'm on here on Beyond the Box every Friday evening and some Saturdays, schedule permitting for me. And then the best place to find me is either on Facebook. My profile picture is the same as here on Beyond the Box. I'm wearing kind of like a Willy Wonka hat. Please send me a friend request and a message for, let me know where you found me. And also fulldisclosuremovement.org. That's the website for the conference that we're throwing in July with Mario and myself, and so many others will be there. And so please check that out on the website. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Tom, you're
Well,
up.
you guys covered it really well, Penny. Thank you for that. And yes, and also Facebook, you can find me there. And yeah, feel free to friend request there also. We're forming, after it's been struck twice, now we're bringing back the website, which is the Real Neo Story at world.net. So we're going to have the actual script there, copyright, everything, where you can see the what was involved in the Matrix story before it was lifted, that particular work. But thanks for having me.
Okay. Mario, how about you? Where can everybody find you?
My website is starseedsalsa.com. My email is the same, starseedsalsa@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook as Mario Mijares, CHT. On Instagram, I go by the Blu-ray Bodhisattva. I will be at the Full Disclosure Now event giving readings, and also will be there with my co-host for my podcast channel, which is, you can find us on YouTube and Rumble. And the name of the channel is Unscripted Liberation Codes. So please come and give us a follow. I'm like hugely shadow banned because I keep saying 9/11 was an inside job.
It was. There we go. We might as well just get it all out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Thank
and it's been
you,
a huge
guys.
pleasure hanging out with you guys. This has been a lot of fun. I don't know how I'm going to go to bed after this. I'm like energized right now.
Well, we
I'm-
do a
I'm
little
telling
after
you.
talk also.
Yeah, we usually stick around afterwards and talk, which I'm going to have to do that, I think, eventually. But anyhow, of course, Andy, you can find him here. He also does a Granite Guardian show, challenge coins. Nice stuff. I've got some. And also, Susie, you can find her here. Here, the Awake Nation. I'm going to be finding myself at her house again. I had a wonderful time when I was out there. If anybody wants to relax, that is the place to go. We will be back tomorrow night. We have a young lady coming on who knew Madonna and is a whistleblower and a good friend to me, Penny, and Susie. So y'all come back and join us tomorrow night. And we are going to wrap it up. And everybody, please be kind to one another. And we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.
Goodbye for now from Beyond the Box. Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box. Please join us again for Beyond the Box, Friday and Saturday evenings from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern. Join us for more intel bombs with our extraordinary guests.
Break it down.
inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box.
Break it down.
Good night, Putin. Good night, Tucker Carlson.